I've gone through and made sure that my levels were good on each individual clip and keyframed them where necessary. I'm going to go ahead and move this area up a little bit so you can see better all of my tracks. So I have my primary audio track, which has both Vanessa and my voices. I also have this dual mono track that we explored earlier on in this lesson and keyframed my voice down a little bit where Vanessa's was staying constant. Now, another difference you may notice from the previous videos in this chapter is that I only have 3 audio tracks. I've thrown away the track that I didn't use. So if it looks a little bit different, it's only because I've done a little more cleanup to prepare for my mix. I did this intentionally because there's a lot of times that, for instance, this audio track is all of our voices and I have this dual mono. You might be in a situation where each person is mono on a separate audio track, or you might have interviews and narration, and you want to be able to combine all the voice tracks into one controlling track, and maybe all your ambience and sound effects, and maybe all your music. So that's why I wanted them on separate tracks. Now I'm going to go ahead and make what's called a submix track that I can use for all my voices. And I'm going to simply right-click in this area and say Add Tracks. I could also get it from the Sequence drop-down menu. And when I do that, I'll get this dialog box. I don't want to add any more regular audio tracks, so I'll make that 0 and video 0. But what I do want is one submix audio track. I'm going to say OK, and you'll see, if I raise this up just a little bit more, that I now have this new submix audio track. And I'm going to change my screen layout a little bit because I don't want the audio clip mixer. I really want to be able to mix everything not by clip, but by the entire track. And I can do this by going over here. I'm going to scroll up just a little bit so you can see on one of them, and I'm going to click on the diamond here. And you see that I have a choice between clip keyframes and track keyframes. And as soon as I switch to track keyframes, you'll notice all of those individual keyframes have disappeared, because what I'm doing now is I can keyframe the entire track. I can make everything, now that it's perfectly mixed, louder or softer on this track. And I can do the same with all of my other tracks. Again, make sure you see the little diamond and switch over to track keyframes, and that's going to give me a completely different set of controls. Now, when I do any kind of a mix, I want to be able to mix my audio tracks. So I'm going to switch my workspace to an audio workspace. You can also open up the audio track mixer separately if you like the layout that you have. So if I switch to the audio workspace, what happens is I now see my mixer nice and large here. I have more space on my timeline, and there's my video. Now I'm going to tighten this up a little bit so you can see all of my tracks, including the track that says submix. And I can make these all a little bit smaller by holding down the Shift key, just so you can see the submix track. With this set up, let's take a look at our audio track mixer. I have each one of my individual tracks. That's voice. We'll call that voice 1. We'll call this voice 2. Now, you don't necessarily have to label it, but I'll tell you, it's good practice to do it. This is music, especially if you have a lot of tracks. I'm going to go ahead and label this submix as all voices, because I'm going to target voice 1. I could scroll it up so you can see it better, but let me go ahead and hit the tilde key, and I'm going to target track voice 1 to my all voice submix, and track 2 to my all voice submix. So now I can go to this submix and make all the voices louder or softer in one fell swoop. And if I had sent everything for my mixes for my music, if I had other tracks, I could send all of them to a music submix. And then finally, the submixes all go to my master. It's just giving me that extra level of control. Hit the tilde key, bring those all down, scroll down so we can see them, And now I'm ready to start mixing my levels. So if I go ahead and start playing, in this audio mixer, if you're not seeing your audio meters, make sure you can go up to Window and turn those on. So there's my audio meters, and if I need a little more space, I can stretch them out. Now I can make sure my levels are good and my individual tracks are good, and I'm ready to mix.
Welcome to Delight Gluten-Free Eats.
If at the end I decide all the music is too loud, or my producer decides that, I can simply bring down the levels of all of my music at once. And if I want to bring up all of my voices, I could go ahead to the voice submix. And when I bring this up, it's not going to only increase the volume of this track, but also of that second mono track that I have.
I'm Vanessa Weisford, Executive Editor of Delight Gluten-Free Magazine, and I'm so excited to welcome you to our test kitchen.
So this is a great way to control all of your levels, and if the volume for your whole show is too soft or too loud, I can just use the master and bring the volume levels for the master up and down. Let me open that up so you can see the line.
My friend Ave is here today to learn how to make an amazing gluten-free.
This slider here can make things softer and louder when it's paused, but if you want to make it softer or louder on the fly, and this is true for all of the tracks in the mixer, you'll need to switch it from read, which is just watching what you have already, to either latch, touch, or write. Each work a little differently. We're going to switch to latch because that's all we need. And now as I play back my master volume,
Main dish. So we're making one of my favorite things right now, and this is a honey barbecue.
it's going to go up and down and record those keyframes where the levels are. So you can mix using your audio track mixer, or let me undo that. You can mix directly in your timeline the entire track by holding down a modifier key, in this case the command key, and bring down the master level for one chunk. Play around with it, and remember, you can always undo, but you have quite a bit of control in your audio for a video editing tool.